Hello, I'm Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training, and I have Roscoe with me today. We're going to be doing his demonstration. I'm sure you're excited to get him. We're just so excited to send him to you. He's just a wonderful dog. I know we're going to miss him. He's just super sweet, and you're going to really enjoy him. We're very happy with the way that his training went. He's very smart, very well behaved, and I think you're going to be pleased with him. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to do a full demonstration. We're going to cover all 5 phases of my program, which if you've went through the manual, these are all going to be pretty familiar to you. Everything that I say should be familiar. But before we get into that, there's a couple things that I like to talk about beforehand. And the first thing is just consistency. That really is the secret to dog training. And so that's both in being consistent when you reward as well as when you correct. So when we reward Roscoe, we use a marker, and so that marker is okay. He associates that with doing a behavior correctly and a reward coming. So we do use 3 different types of rewards. We use food, affection, and toys. So, and he thrives off affection. That's like the greatest thing in the world. If you can sit there and pet him, he's going to love you forever. So now the other side of that is you also do have to correct your dog. He's always looking for information. So when we correct him, we use the word no or nope, and I treat that like a misdemeanor felony type of deal. If he does something that's wrong, now that correction, how severe it is predicted by the behavior. So if he does something simple like he breaks a stay, I'll just tell him no and I'll have him do it again. Whereas if he does something a little bit more serious, like he jumps up on me, maybe tries to steal food out of my hand, I'm going to be a little bit more firm in the way that I present that correction. And I'll do that by adjusting my voice fluctuation and my body language. Those 2 factors, dog reads very heavily. So just remember, be consistent in everything that you do. He's always going to be watching to see what he can get away with. And if you set these expectations for him and you're strict, he's going to be very, very obedient. And which right now he's just doing phenomenal. So, yeah. So the other side of things is the transition period, or the other thing that I like to talk to people about is this transition period. This is going to happen the next 2 to 4 weeks as he's transitioning into your home. And so you do need to be patient with him. You need to allow him to acclimate. He's going to be stressed out. He's going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently. He'll probably also have a loose stool. So allow him to acclimate, be patient with him. Don't push him real heavily on these commands that you know that he can do. You can do them a little bit, but really expect the manners. Those are things that he shouldn't get away with. But go easy on these intense commands. Don't expect him to be at this top-notch level right when he gets home, because he is going to have to acclimate as well as get used to you being his leader. So remember that. Also remember, if you do have any questions, especially after watching this and after getting him home, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. We want to make sure that he transitions as smooth as possible. So now we're going to talk just briefly about socialization, and then I'll pull him out and I will show you his manners, his obedience commands, house and crate training, and then leash training. So socialization, this is the first phase of our program, and to me it's the most important thing we do with any puppy. And so what it is at the age of 6 weeks to about 12 weeks, there's this real vital period in a dog's life that they're going to decide what they're afraid of and what they're not. And so if you can properly socialize them, you can avoid having any severe anxiety, aggression, or timid behaviors. And so what we do is we spend those initial 2 weeks that I have a dog just focusing on that. We get them around as many new people, new places, sounds, animals, just a variety of new and uncomfortable things as we possibly can, and we do it in a controlled environment. That way, if we do see any of those negative behaviors, we can back it off and we can make sure that a positive experience comes from it, and that way we can lessen those behaviors as well as help them be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And so we've done that. I haven't noticed anything with Roscoe. He seems to be just a very, very good dog, doesn't have any severe anxiety, aggression, or timid behaviors. So he's done really well with that. When we work on that, we really work on his engagement. So when he does get stressed out, we can help that become a positive by engaging with us. we pet him, we give him treats, and that way he's just going to be comfortable in those situations. And you are going to have to do that a little bit when you get home because it's a new environment. He doesn't recognize anything there, and so by you really bonding with him and focusing on him engaging with you during those uncomfortable times, that's going to, one, solidify the bond with you, but also help him feel more confident and less timid in those situations. So the first manner that we are going to show you is his gates and his doorways. So anytime he comes out of the crate, he goes through a house door, I do expect him to hold a stay. Should be an automatic behavior, should just do it without me saying anything. However, remember with all of this that he is still a puppy, and so there is this time that he's going to be maturing, as well as he might try and test the waters a little bit. So if he did try and break, I might simply close the door, lift up my leg and block him. It wouldn't be unless he was really persistent on pushing his way out that I would actually tell him to stay. Okay, good boy. Now I'm going to hook a leash on him. I like to have him drag a leash until they're, like 6 months old, 7 months old. That way I have a quick way of correcting as well as if I just need to grab him. But when I hook this leash on, I'm going to show you my next expected behavior. And that's what we consider his greeting. And so I'm going to ignore him until he does sit. This also includes when you invite him over. Roscoe, come here. And so before I give him the attention, I expect him to sit. Good boy, good boy, good boy, good boy. And the purpose of that is two things. One, to get his eye contact. Because dogs basically have this single track mind. Whatever they're looking at, that's basically where their focus is going to be. So if you can get that eye contact, you know that he's going to be focused on you. Good boy. As well as it's a replacement behavior for jumping. Now, jumping is a huge issue with puppies. It's one of the hardest things to overcome, and so it's something that we've worked on a lot with Roscoe. You can see that he's just very happy, energetic puppy, and so it's too easy for them to get overexcited and want to jump. And so we've taught him the command off, and that's if he tried to jump up on me, or he tried to jump up on the couch, anything that he's not supposed to jump up on, you can tell him off and expect him to get down. And there's two ways to correct this with that. One is if I had a hold of the leash, like if you were on a walk and he tried to jump up, I'd give him 2 pops on the leash. Not trying to yank him backwards, more so I'm getting his attention and then delivering the off command. The other thing is if he came up to me and I thought he was going to jump up on me, I would bring my knee into him. I'm not going to step back. As soon as you step back, that turns into a game. Instead, I would step into him and I'd bring my knee up and block him and tell him off. So, pop up, yeah, good boy. So next, I'll show you his mealtime manners. Now I'm just going to feed him a little bit because we've already had breakfast this morning. And so anytime I feed him, I expect him to hold a sit stay. Calls ask him to stay. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Now his meal is a very valuable time because it does show him who's the boss in this relationship, basically. The alpha always controls the food, what they're allowed to eat and when they're allowed to eat. And so by controlling his food and doing this little exercise, you're developing a relationship built on you being the leader. And you can see he loves his meal. A lot of times we will throw a ball in there just to slow him down so he doesn't just swallow it real fast. Boy. As well as I spend a lot of time just handling him when he eats. I want to make sure that he's not going to be food aggressive, anything like that. Oh, yeah, it's gone. See? It's gone. I think we might have should have done his walk first. He's a little bit energetic. Come on. You good boy. You good boy. So we also do spend a lot of time just handling him, both his ears, his paws, his tail, brushing him, just making sure that he's not going to fight you when you have to give him a bath, when you have to clip his nails or brush him, anything like that. I want him to be alright with being handled, with being groomed. And he quite enjoys it, so you don't have to worry about that. But we just want to make sure that there's no sensitivity or aggression with any of that. Now, he's super sweet. I've never noticed any aggressive behavior out of him. However, there's one behavior that sometimes is mistaken for aggression. And that's with kids. Small children are like the greatest thing to a dog. They run, they squeal, they're the perfect height. And your dog just wants to play along. But then Roscoe, he's going to be pretty big, and so it's so easy for him to knock a kid over. Maybe he's trying to play and he grabs a pant leg. And then you have issues because the next door neighbor thinks your dog just bit their kid. And so to prevent that, I make a rule that anytime kids play with my dog, they have to have a toy. Drop it. Good boy. That way, he has something to go after. If they're running, he's going to go after the toy, not a pant leg. Get a kid that's maybe a little bit nervous with a dog, they can throw the toy and direct him away. And that way you're just going to avoid a lot of those accidental things, basically. So he does know when we play with it that if I ask him to drop it, I expect him to freely give it up. He shouldn't fight me with it. Instead, he should just open his mouth and give it up. Now, with these soft toys, I'm never going to try and yank it away from him when I'm asking him to drop it, because it's too easy to grab a tooth, basically. They get caught in them really easy. So if I'm asking him to drop it, I'll just ask him to drop it. Good boy. And I expect him just to give it up. Now, there's two ways there that you can work on it. One being just what I did, having a hold of it. But I can also just ask him to, Roscoe, drop it. Drop it. Good boy. And I'll give him a treat for that type of a drop it, where he just dropped it on the ground and looked up at me. So that's more so in case of something you don't want to touch. But he loves to play. He's super sweet. Loves to just get out, run around, and release some energy. Drop it. Good boy. Now, he also has been taught to have a very gentle mouth. So if he's overexcited, I'll just tell him gently. And I expect him to be careful when he takes the food. That way he's not catching my fingers. So, again, the command is just gently. Gently. Good boy. As well as I'll give it to him in the palm of my hand instead of between the thumb and forefinger. That way he's less likely to catch a finger that way. And you're not going to get accidentally bit. So, let's see. So I believe the last manner is chewing. And chewing is a big deal. It's also one that you can't escape. Because Roscoe here is teething. He only has, a couple more teeth to lose. I think he's just got his canines, and then he's going to cut molars. So the next 2 to 4 months, he's going to be teething. So you can't escape the behavior. Instead, what you do is you train with a base of avoiding and replacing. If you can avoid giving him free access to things you don't want chewed up, that's always the best way to prevent it from happening. However, it's never possible in your home. There's always something he's going to have access to. And that's where replacing comes in. If he goes up and he starts wanting to chew on like a pillow or his soft bed, I'll tell him no, and I'll replace it with something soft. If he wants to chew on a table leg, I'll give him something hard like a bully stick. And so I'm really trying to match texture. If he wants to chew on shoelaces or a rug, give him something like a rope. But he is chewing based on what his mouth needs. So if you can replace with the same type of texture, you're fulfilling the need that he feels. The other thing is boredom. Boredom causes destructive behavior. And so if you can avoid him being bored, that's always a bonus too, right? But it's not possible as well. There's always going to be some part of the day, whether you have a downtime, you're reading a book or watching a show, or doing whatever, where he doesn't have something to do. So a lot of times I'll just give him something to do. I'll give him like a marrow bone or a bully stick, just something that he can sit down and chew on. Right now bully sticks don't last very long, so I opt for the marrow bones. But that way he can just relax and chew on something. Come here. The other thing that causes these destructive behaviors is lack of exercise. And so it is really important that he gets a good walk every day and goes out and plays. Boy. So the other thing that kind of goes along with chewing is mouthing. He doesn't do it very much, but every once in a while when you're petting him, if he's real excited, he'll stick your hand in his mouth. And he's not trying to bite you, but it does scare a lot of people, and I don't want him mouthing on my hand. And so if he did that, if my hand went in his mouth, I'd just immediately grab his muzzle and tell him no. If he licks me, that's fine, but you can see he's very responsive. So if he starts to put your hands in his mouth, or he wants to try and grab onto your pants, anything to get your attention, I'll just grab his muzzle and tell him no. So with that, that concludes our manners. Now we're going to jump right into our obedience portion. So with his commands, we're going to start by talking about come and watch me. Those are our two most basic commands. And then I'll show you hand signals for sit, down, and stay. And then I'll show you his place commands, which are go to bed and crate, and then leave it. So the first two are our most basic commands. The first one is just to get eye contact. And you can do this a lot of different ways to work on it. One is I can even move the treat away, tap, just trying to direct his attention away. Which he's just going to keep looking back at me. Watch me. Okay, good boy. But all I'm looking for is his eye contact. And so it can be as simple as that. Watch me. Oh, watch me. Good boy. But I'm just looking for him to make eye contact. And it goes back to what I was talking about with his greeting, that if you have his eye contact, you have 100% of his attention. So this command is one that I practice a lot, and I always practice with food, so it's super positive. But it can be used, you know, if you drop something on the floor while you're cooking, you don't want him to get it. Or if you just need him to stop and look at you for whatever reason. We also use his name, very similar. You can see, I mean, he just has great engagement. He focuses right on you, and it's hard to deter that, so it's hard to show you on camera for him to actually look away from me for longer than a split second. So I might just throw that in randomly. But along with that, they go hand in hand, or this goes hand in hand with come, because I always use his name when I call him to come, for the fact of getting his attention on me and then calling him. So this come command is your recall, and to me it's your most important command. It's hard to show in here because we don't have a lot of room. Roscoe, come! Okay, good boy. I'm not going to wait for him to sit. It's just as soon as he gets to me, I'm going to give him a treat. It's also one that if he's distracted by anything, I want to be more exciting than the distraction. And so I'll say it in a more chipper voice, a little bit louder, might even get down. All these things are really inviting to a dog. Oh, yeah, good boy. Now, this is also a command that I see people break quite often. And the reason that is first is overuse. So if you are in the house and he's like 3 feet away, don't use the come command. There's no point. Instead, I can, you know, get down like that or something like kissy noises. Come here. Try and get him away from me a little bit. But yeah, you can, Roscoe, come here. Something like that. You can see he's very happy to come to you. So don't overuse the command. The other thing is if he ever fails, if you have him off leash and he gets overly distracted, he's chasing something, and then a minute later he finally realizes, oh, what am I doing? And he turns around and comes to you. You can't then punish your dog because he thinks he's responding to that command, and then by reprimanding him, he doesn't want to come to you anymore. You just burned his trust. So that one's a little bit hard if he does fail. That's why it's so important that until he responds to you and you can tell that you have this bond, keep him on a long leash. That way, if you do call him to come and he doesn't, you can reel him in. So, yeah, good boy. If you do have any questions with these, don't hesitate to give me a call. So the next couple have hand signals. So the first is a sit, which is just to scoop over his nose. If it helps you remember, when we first got him, we got his food bowl, and I'd lure it up over his nose till his hind end went down, and then we'd mark it. Down, I'll just take my hand flat and I'll take him to the ground. We've been working on that one since we've had him a little bit longer without having to go to the ground, but the hand signal is still the same, and then stay is a stop sign. Come here. So I can ask him to sit, down, stay. Now he has great puppy stays, but don't be satisfied with them, always seek to improve them. Right now he's up and around 20 seconds, if not a little bit more, but you can always improve. Okay, good boy. And the way you improve, I'll show you his sit stay real quick. Stay is adding what we call the 3Ds, and that's distance, duration, and distraction. Those 3 factors build a solid stay. The other thing to note, where he broke there, I'm going to send him right back. That was a little, hey, no, come here. Sit. Stay. If I put him in a sit stay, I don't care if he lays down. However, if he's in a down stay, I never want him to come up. Okay, good boy. And you can see where he did break. I'm just going to have him do it again. That way I always end on that correct behavior. There you go, boy. So now as place commands, the first one I can show you is just go to bed. Go to bed. And I don't care what go to bed. I don't care what position he is in, as long as all 4 paws are on the bed and he is expected to stay until released. This is a command that I do allow him to read my body language. Okay, I'll get close and I'll point. Go to bed. Boy. Okay, and it's very similar to the crate command, which I'm still going to allow him to read my body language, and I'll point. If he hesitates, I might tap on the top. Come here. Where I didn't put him in there, I'm just going to have him come out. I can tell him, Roscoe, crate. Okay, good boy. I am going to give him the treat when he goes in, because he's expected to stay, and some of the time you will close that door. Okay, good boy. And the crate command is very similar to the come command in the fact that you don't want to burn it out. You want to practice it more than you use it to actually lock him up. So instead, I'll just have him go in and out of the crate a handful of times before I put him up, or just randomly throughout the day. Roscoe, crate. Come on, crate. Good boy. Okay. And the last part of our obedience commands is leave it. We use this a lot more on walks if he's sniffing something you don't want him to have, or once again if you drop something you don't want him to get. But you can also do it as a fun little party trick. I can put treats on his paws and expect him to leave it. I'm going to try and turn him a little bit. Down. Leave it. Good boy. Okay, good boy. When I do it on his paw like that, I'm never going to let him have the treat that was on his paw, because I don't want him to think that after a minute he can pick up whatever I've asked him to leave. So, good boy. Come here. If you do have any questions with that, please give me a call. But we are going to move on to his house and crate training now. And the first part I'm going to talk to you is about the crate training. So we spent a lot of time getting him comfortable in the crate, and to the point where he's not going to have accidents. And right now he'll sleep through the night. He's been going to bed about 9:30 or 10, getting up around 6:30. So he's been doing great with that. And then he's good for 2 to 3 hour blocks throughout the day. Now, with that being said, we talked about this transition early on. If he starts to whine in the middle of the night, the first night or two, give him a break. This stress is going to have him all mixed up inside. So if you can give him a break partway through, that's going to help him not have an accident, and it's going to help you. So, in fact, I like to set an alarm the first couple nights and just give him a break partway through. Good boy. Also, when you put him in the crate, in the middle of the day, don't give him food or water, as well as give him a break, a bathroom break right before you put him in. But he's been doing great in there. He only whines if he needs to go to the bathroom, so I'm sure you'll be happy with that. And now, the second part to this is his house training. So we spent a ton of time on house training, and this is going to be the most involved for you. And I do understand that you're in an apartment, and so it's even going to be a little bit more challenging. Just because these first couple days, you have to teach him where the bell is in your apartment, and that it means the same thing as it does here. And so the best way to do this is to get a lot of repetitions the first couple days. And for you, that either means taking a lot of stairs or a lot of elevator rides. And usually, I tell people every 30 minutes. You're going to give him a break every 30 minutes the first 24 hours. And that way you're staying ahead of his pee schedule. If that's not possible for you, you can do every hour, but I would keep 100% supervision, which is also a huge part of house training. You have to keep that supervision if you want them to transition with the house training. So we have taught him how to ring a bell when he goes to the bathroom. And let's see here. So I'm just going to pull off this single bell. You're not going to be able to hear it because it doesn't have a ball in it, but I will send you a set that does ring, and the exercise is going to be the same. So the first thing that I would do is just what we call targeting the bell. I want to get him excited about ringing it. This way you're getting a lot of repetitions and you're teaching him where the bell is located in your home. So I'm going to break up some treats here, and I'm just going to focus on the bell, and I'll reward him when he touches it. Okay, good boy. And my eye contact, my focus, okay, is just on the bell. I'm not making eye contact with him. Okay, good boy. Now that pause in there sometimes is really hard for people, but that's a critical part of this type of training. We call it free shaping. Okay, because it's allowing the dog to process and to figure out what I'm looking for. So he's basically teaching himself. So I'm going to have him ring it one more time. Okay, good boy. And the other thing is like that, there's someone at my door and he's just super distracted by it. I'm going to get his attention back on me. That way I'm not just standing here pointlessly because he's distracted on someone else. Instead I want him more so, hey, engaging with me. Okay, good boy. I have him ring it one more time. Hey. Okay, good boy. And so, yeah, you can see he was super distracted. And so instead I'm going to get his attention back on me. But for the most part, I'm not going to be asking him to ring it. I'm not going to be bouncing it off his nose. I'm just going to be holding it. And just like that, when he got his attention back on me, he's reading my body language, what I'm asking him to do. So, after you get him to ring it, just like that, sitting there, then I'm going to invite him over to the door. Come here. And I'm going to do the same thing, except for I'm going to take a hold of his leash, and I'm going to have him ring it off the door. Okay, good boy. I'm also going to switch the language a little bit. I also don't want him... Okay. So I'll give him maybe a minute or two outside just to sniff around and go to the bathroom. When he goes, I'll tell him, okay, good outside. That's our marker for going to the bathroom. If he doesn't, I'll bring him right back in. And now I would do this, so you only need to do it out of your hand once, a little targeting that I showed you. And then off the door, I would bring him right back in, have him ring it again, go back outside. And I do that 4 or 5 times. That way you're just getting some quick repetitions. So after you do that little exercise that I just showed you, that's when I set that timer for 30 minutes. Or in this case, if that's too much, you can stretch it out to an hour. But every hour, I'll take him over, have him ring the bells, take him outside, go to the bathroom. If he goes, good outside, good boy, make it very, very positive, make it exciting, he's done the right thing. If he doesn't go, you just come right back in, reset that timer. Now, I like to do every 30 minutes for the first 24 hours. Then I'll start to bump it up. Then I'll go to 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. So 2 hours is our standard. I know that he can go 2 hours without needing a break, but I don't want to give him that opportunity to push it. I want to stay ahead of his pee schedule. And so do not let him go over 2 hours for the first month. You know, take him out every 2 hours. But start with that, if you can, every 30 minutes. I'm telling you, that's just the best way to do it for that first 24 hours, then gradually bump it up. That way he just never has an opportunity to have an accident, or why he's trying to figure out where the bell is at your house, and then it means the same thing. The other thing that's real important with this house training is 100% supervision. You have to give him that supervision. Just have to. If you can't, use the crate. You know, keep that way. You know, he's less likely to pee in his crate than he is out. And so if you can't give him the 100% supervision, use the crate. Make sure that he's always around you. And then look for signs that he's got to go to the bathroom. If he starts sniffing real heavily, if he starts spinning around in circles, or panting real heavily, those are all signs that he might need to go to the bathroom. And so at that point, I just take him over, let him ring the bells, and go outside. The other thing that I like to do is I'll block off a portion of my house. And so, you know, if you just are in a studio apartment or a one bedroom, you don't have to block off that much, but I don't want to give him free reign right off the bat. I want him in places that if he does have an accident, it's easier to clean up, so hard surfaces. But then, once again, just the most important part is 100% supervision. Also, making sure that you limit his food and water. His water, right now, it's not hot enough. You have to worry about dehydration, and so I'll give it to him with meals and like 3 or 4 other times throughout the day. But I don't want him to have unlimited access to water, or else he's just going to drink so much, then he's going to have to pee a lot more. And then with food, so we feed him in the morning, usually around 6:30 or 7, and then at night at 6 o'clock. At night is more important what time, because I like to give him a good 4 hours to clear his system before I put him to bed, which we've been putting him to bed about 10. And I feed him a cup and a half morning and night. So if you do have any questions with the house training, feel free to give me a call. But we are going to move on to our leash work now. So we take him on 2 different types of walks. The first being an off-leash walk, and that's for him just to be a dog, to run around, to play. We take him on that type of walk. We do it once a day here just because we do have the space. But I just want him to have an outlet, be able to run and relax. And then the second type of walk is our attention walk, and that's more so if you're in public. You want him putting the majority of his focus on you. And so during that time, I want him next to me. I don't care if he's a step ahead or a step behind. I really don't like him behind, but if he gets a little bit ahead, it's not that strict of a heel, because he's still pretty young to be adding some intense pressure. But I do want a nice loose leash, and then I will tell him let's go every time that we start, and then easy if he starts to pull. So we will go outside, and I will show you that. Come here. So when I start this walk, I like to have him sit just so I can get his attention. And then we have 2 commands. The first is easy if he starts to pull. Second is let's go, just signifying that we're moving. I'll tell him that every time that we make corners, as well as when we start to walk. And so as you watch this, look at the way that he pays attention to me, as well as how his leash forms this nice J shape, which shows that he is keeping that nice and loose. Let's go. Let's go. Good boy, good boy. Let's go. Okay, good boy. Good boy.